telling you all day today that it is World Refugee Day. The theme focusing on refugees just like you and me. That is part of the theme there. The commemoration of this day is happening right now at the Nairobi Museums. Now, lots of government officials, NGOs, the UNHCR, of course, leading this, as well as diplomats who are present at this event. U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Bob Godek, is present, and he made these remarks at Nairobi Museums just a short while ago. Listen in.
Principal Secretary Rungu, UN Resident Coordinator Sid Chatterjee, UNHCR Country Rep Rauf Mazu, Mabibi na mabwana, hamjambo, habari zenu, mambo, poa. So, first of all, I'd like to say a very big thanks to the host of this event, to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Country Representative Rauf Mazu, and an entire UNHCR team. Thank you for putting this on, another wonderful event to celebrate refugees. And I also want right at the outset as well to express the deep appreciation of the government and people of the United States to the government and people of Kenya for their long history of hosting refugees and providing protection to people fleeing persecution, conflict, and other forms of insecurity. You know, I think it's particularly important on a day like today, on World Refugee Day, that we say thank you to Kenya and to the other hosts around the world who have done so much to help protect refugees over many years. So thank you, Kenya, government, people, thank you all of you very much. Every year, the number of women and children, men who are forcibly displaced has been rising. Recent years, it's been quite an unfortunate climb. This year, it's climbed by over 5 million people, so now we're an estimated over 65 million, 21 million refugees. The rest are internally displaced persons. And tragically, of course, half of these refugees are children. Most of them have been uprooted by conflict. And in a world that is struggling, frankly, with war and insecurity, humanitarian leadership is absolutely essential. In crisis after crisis, the hard work of diplomats and development workers, all sorts of different folks, have helped to keep borders open and aid flowing. And this all has saved, continues to save, will continue to save millions of lives. And it really is essential work. It's essential that we keep borders open. It's essential that we allow aid to continue to flow, that we continue to provide for the most vulnerable people in the world. The United States contributes more than any other country to humanitarian operations around the world. Last year, our humanitarian assistance exceeded $6 billion US dollars. And this includes more than $105 million in humanitarian assistance to refugees here in Kenya. So over 10 billion Kenya shillings. And the operations that we and other donors fund deliver essential life-saving assistance: food, shelter, medical care, clean water, sanitation, many different things. They protect the rights of the displaced, care for survivors of gender-based violence, reunite families, educate children, and help people gain the skills they need to support themselves and their families. But you know, it is absolutely no secret, certainly no secret to anyone here in this room, that the humanitarian system is under great strain. Every year, the needs outstrip the resources available. And the changing nature of the crises presents new challenges to all of us. The amount of time refugees typically spend in exile has stretched from months to years, and in many places, including here in Kenya, now decades. So humanitarian and development agencies are collaborating in new ways to get help to refugees and communities that host them. The United States and other donors are enlisting the World Bank and other multilateral development banks to provide new forms of financing to countries that are struggling to care for large numbers of refugees. We're also supporting global measures to modernize the humanitarian system and meet ever-mounting needs. At the World Humanitarian Summit in May, representatives from around the world discussed how we could do more to share responsibility, coordinate humanitarian and development aid, and stop governments from and combatants from violating international humanitarian law. And to move forward on these issues, President Obama will host a summit on refugees at the UN General Assembly later this year. And this summit is intended to leverage new resources and new international commitments to address the growing global refugee crisis, including new help to address protracted displacement, such as that here in Kenya and elsewhere in the Horn of Africa. At the same time, the United States is expanding its own resettlement program to admit as many as 85,000 refugees this year, up from the target of 70,000 that we've had for the past 3 years. The United States permanently resettles more refugees than all the other countries around the world combined. You know, we're very proud of our resettlement program, but frankly, it is inspired by the vitality that refugees bring to the United States. Many start new businesses, revitalize neighborhoods, and give back to their communities. Their courage and achievements are a powerful rebuke to the bigotry and brutality that has chased so many people from their homes in all too many countries around the world. We also recognize the commitment and generosity of countries such as Kenya that provide safe haven to refugees as they wait for more permanent, durable solutions. As President Obama said during his historic visit here last year, Kenya continues to carve out a distinct place in the community of nations as a source of peacekeepers for places torn apart by conflict and as a host for refugees driven from their homes. Kenya's support has provided a lifeline in a time of need to some of the world's most vulnerable. Now, most of the refugees, of course, dream of the day they can go home. And the international community supports efforts to help refugees return home when conditions allow them to do so. But this choice must be made voluntarily by each refugee at a time when they feel it's safe for them and their families to go home. Frameworks such as the tripartite agreement between UNHCR and the governments of Kenya and Somalia provide an excellent mechanism to ensure that refugees returning home voluntarily can do so in safety and dignity. We must recognize that refugees and others forced from their homes by conflict are no different from each of us. They're no different from anyone around the world. They're fleeing violence and the threat of death. They want a roof over their heads and food for their families. They want peace and security for their communities. And our humanity demands that we help them meet these most basic needs and that we treat them with caring, compassion, and with respect. We must continue to work globally and locally, not just to save lives, but to restore dignity and hope to some of the world's most vulnerable people. I want to thank you all for the privilege of being here today to mark World Refugee Day. And I just want to emphasize at the end my remarks that the United States and the American people stand with refugees. We stand together. Pamoja tusonge mbele, asanteni sana. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. Let's appreciate His Excellency as he goes to sit down. Okay.